The most interesting guests. The coolest conversations. Keep watching episodes of the Grizzly Podcast, hosted by Irvin Scott. Follow the Grizzly Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and many more apps to have our episodes delivered right to your iPhone, Android, or any other device whenever they're released. Can't get enough of the Grizzly Podcast? Stay up to date with all our latest news, events, and behind-the-scenes footage by visiting grizzlypodcast.com.
So what does it mean to be on your Grizzly? It means hard work, dedication, and it means progress beyond your Grizzly. Hard work, dedication, and progress.
I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. I'm on my Grizzly, y'all. I'm on my Grizzly. And if you're busy making moves, say it with me.
Coming to you from the City of Angels, this is the Grizzly Podcast, hosted by Irvin Scott.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Grizzly Podcast. I am your host, Irvin Scott, and today I am joined by a special guest. She is best known as a pop singer and songwriter. She's contributed music to several film and TV projects, including the Descendants franchise and the theme song for the Golden State Warriors basketball team. Some of her biggest hits include Like You're in Mine, Messy, Shut Up, and her recent single Airport, which have all received over 1 million streams and views online. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Hayes Warner.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for the intro. That was, pumped me up.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Grizzly Podcast. It's such an honor to have you on the show, especially because you're a talented individual and you're working towards your dreams and goals. So that's the reason why I wanted you to be a part of this podcast. The name here, the Grizzly Podcast, what that means, that's a slang term. The term Grizzly means being on your grind. And what we do here in LA, and not just LA, but all over the world, we're on our Grizzly. How are things with you?
They're good. That's the biggest compliment. I like to consider myself a grinder, and that was that huge compliment. So big fan of your podcast. I'm good. It's kind of gray in New York, noon, but it's all good. It's good. I'm excited to be here.
So my voice is shot, by the way. So for anybody listening and tuning in right now, if you're wondering what's going on with my voice, had a wild weekend, but overall we're here.
A nice little rasp. It's perfect.
We've got so much to talk about. But before we do all that, Hayes, we got to take them back for our listeners and viewers that are tuning in and watching right now who aren't familiar with your career. How did this whole thing get started? You were born and raised in New York. Is that correct?
I was really lucky, but big New York lover. Love LA too, but New York at heart. And so I just, from when I can remember and when I was born, I've just always wanted to do this. This is kind of all I've ever, set my mind in my head. This is all I was ever going to do. And I was going to, kill anyone in the way. Kind of kidding, but kind of not. And so I grew up and I, quickly became obsessed with musical theater because it was just, I think musical theater people are so talented. And like you were saying, the grind, there is just such a grind with that I, learned from being around people like that are just dancers, singers, actors, waiting online for auditions, constantly training, never settling. And I just loved being around that energy. And it was such a good energy in New York to be around. And, I was really lucky. And it kind of, led to singing and songwriting, but that energy really, was there at the start.
So cool to hear. And especially because from what I learned, you've been writing music since you were 14 years old.
Yeah. So I, like I was saying, since I was 14, technically when I was like 8, I wrote a song here and there, not going to share any of that. But I started singing at, some open mic nights through the city, the ones that were not 18 plus or whatever. And I would sing my original songs. Some of them were really cringy, but I met some really cool producers, just kind of putting myself out there, posting on YouTube a lot, covers and stuff. And I met some really cool producers in New York. And I was really lucky. I got to, go into the studio for free with some people that, were like, hey, I like that song. Let's work together on it, and meet some awesome songwriters through them. And it just was like, I always say, like, putting myself out there really helped me, whether it was YouTube, just posting, or whether it was going out and meeting people. I kind of developed a New Yorkie network of people that were writing and producing, and I just felt an obsession with that from when I was 14 through middle school, through high school. And I just have this, catalog of songs now that from growing up, I'm like, ooh, I remember when that happened to me, middle school song. But I kind of have my whole life in a song, in a catalog of songs, which is awesome. But yeah.
Being that you grew up in New York City, would you say that the environment you grew up in also influenced your music career?
Totally. I think that there's such a unique type of, like you were saying, like, honestly, I always talk about it, a grind energy, like whether it's you're in entertainment or whether you're in, like finance or, art or whatever it is that you're in, the people are just grinding. And like, it's not complacent. It's like, if you want to get there and you want to stand out, you got to put the work in. And I think a lot of my songs kind of, I want that energy in my songs. I sometimes talk about, this New York poppy, like edgy, hard hitting music that I think kind of replicates like the energy that I feel when I'm home. And I think it just really, inspired me to put my all into it. I still am. I'm not saying I'm done doing it. It's kind of never say no, always take opportunities, always be grateful, and just, put the work in. So I definitely think that has, influenced who I am as a person and influenced my music in that way too. 100%.
Who are some artists that you draw inspiration from?
Huge influences. I'm obsessed with Gwen Stefani. I always have been, growing up. Huge one. Joan Jett. I love Pink. I love, I grew up with Fergie. Always got to put in Kesha too. Just those, those 2000s hard hitting rock star females. I just love. And I grew up obsessed with them. And I always talk about this, like from when I was really young, I would go to, little venues, and a lot of the artists that I saw perform were now like huge. Like in 2016, Dua Lipa was at Mercury Lounge, and I, got tickets to it. I was always obsessed with who was performing there, and she's now Dua Lipa. And like, it's just, I think New York is like this pod of, you never know who you're going to see. You never know who's performing. But yeah.
You've been doing your thing for quite some time now, and you began recording music at the age of 16. What does that feel like? Just knowing that you're 16 years old, you're doing something you love, obviously, but where do you draw that inspiration from?
Well, for one, I have to say, I was writing and recording at 16. I was writing also for other people then, but my music and like you're saying, like, what does a 16-year-old write about? As I've gone through things, I really think my writing has improved, but I'm a very emotional person. I'm a Cancer. I'm obsessed with, listening to my friends talk about their feelings and therapizing people and thinking about like why I feel certain things. Like, it's just a Cancer, I really am at heart. And I have always really felt things deeply. And whether it's inspiration really from things that, I feel, even if they're not entirely thought through at 16, or, you know, like watching my friends go through things, you know, definitely boy, girl drama, whatever it is. But like, just also, you never know, like parents divorce and, you know, fighting with your friends. And there's totally things at like 16 that I look back and I'm like, wow, I kind of still relate to that. That still happens to me. But as I've gotten older, certainly I've improved.
So tell me more about what it was like attending Northwestern University and studying musical theater there.
It was amazing. Like, I'm so lucky to, you know, go to college and get to study what I love. And what was so amazing about it too is just the people I was around, you know, from such different parts of the world that all, you know, are so uber talented in these three things, like dancing, like singing and acting. It really kind of opened my eyes to how different people perform, how different people sing, you know, like different people's acting tactics, all these things. But really the community that I met through that was amazing. And I ended up, like, I knew this whole time, I've always just wanted to be a singer, songwriter, performer. But it's just so unclear how to do that. Like, there's no like, I mean, there are books, you know, what's the music industry, but like, how do you find a manager? How do you go from finding a manager to finding booking? It's just really complicated, and it's kind of just putting yourself out there and hoping someone listens. And it's kind of what I tried to do through, you know, being at school. So I ended up just, you know, recording with people, co-writing with people, continuing what I was doing in New York, but, you know, with people I met that also loved it from different parts of, you know, the world. So I got to kind of be in musical theater and take these classes and train my voice and dance and do all those things, but while also like continuing to, you know, get my goals straight and do, you know, singing, songwriting. So it was amazing.
Now, this is something very cool, as I'm a big fan of this gentleman. You actually got a chance to tour with hip hop superstar Fetty Wap last year in 2022. Tell me more about what it was like touring with hip hop superstar Fetty Wap.
Crazy. I mean, I'm like such a Fetty Wap diehard day one. And just like hearing those songs, you know, like I'll be done with my performance and hearing the songs, and every time the audience just like goes crazy. It's just like, I'm going crazy. I'm like, oh, it's Trap Queen. Like, it just takes me back to like the feral 13-year-old in me just shrieking. It was really like, I know it sounds cheesy, but like an honor, honestly, to get to do it. And people are always like, you're not a hip hop, you know, you're not. But his songs were so iconic. Like, the audience it was like hip hop lovers, but it's also pop lovers. And it's just, the audience is so diverse in who loves him. So I got to perform in front of people that like love pop, hate pop, you know, maybe in between. And it was what it was, but it was really like a great gig. I loved doing that last summer. Yeah.
So Hayes, you signed your first publishing deal with music industry exec and icon Daniel Glass as part of his publishing division of Glassnote Music, or Connection Music. And Daniel Glass, by the way, he's helped guide the careers of various stars such as Pat Benatar, Huey Lewis, Billy Idol, and more, as well as your career. What's it like working with Daniel Glass?
It's honestly an honor. He really just has so much knowledge, but he's also really, you know, he's a very knowledgeable person, but he's not, you know, rude about it or has a big ego about it. And he's really supportive. And the team there that he has at, you know, Glassnote and Connection, they're just so amazing. They're not only like friends, but they're also just so great, and they work together so well, and they're so helpful. It's a really, you know, amazing community that's there, and they're really supportive, and it's been an honor.
So another thing you like to do on the road, I'm sure, is shopping, thrifting, and sewing. Is that correct?
I mean, yes, I've really become a sewing maniac. I love fashion. And I think, you know, I love renewable fashion. I love thrifting little, you know, clothing that I can change up and, you know, make it different. Shopping's expensive, and the amount of outfits I've needed, it's like crazy. So just taking things, making them different. I've just been teaching myself to sew and just like trying to design my own fits. And I'm trying to get better at it. But that's totally a goal of mine, you know, like design my outfits, design my show outfits, design my life outfits. I'm trying.
How would you describe your personal fashion style?
I definitely think there's a bit of like New York from it. You know, I'm dark colors, you know, a little business sharp black is my favorite. And I kind of like it to reflect my music, which is, you know, flashy, a little in your face, a little edgy, punky, but I'm still, you know, every day playing around with things, playing around with makeup, figuring out what I like, what works. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. I want my look and what I'm wearing to reflect kind of the music I'm making. And so that's where I'm at.
I've watched the videos and I've checked out the fashion in these music videos, and you definitely got some swag. So kudos to you for, you know, rocking them fits.
Love it. Thank you.
So let's jump into this music. You've released various singles, Like You're in Mine, Messy, Shut Up, and your recent single, Airport. How would you describe your music?
So I would say I like it to be in your face, a little bit, you know, sassy, rhythmic, whether that's, you know, a guitar that making it rhythmic, something weird. I like to experiment with it. And I think Shut Up's kind of the first example of what's to come, really. I've just been like pushing and seeing how far I can, you know, experiment. And then at the same time, I also really like making emotional music and something that's honest and vulnerable. And I really want to have, when I finally release, you know, my EP, which is coming up, there's going to be a side of it that's emotional and, you know, like the Like You're in Mine and like Airport, where I'm singing about something that I really personally went through that hurt me or that, you know, inspired me and is really raw and real. And then there's another side of it that I want, you know, to be sassy and rhythmic and edgy and dark. And in your face. And, you know, I think that New York edge, just like I want it to really shine through and I want you to feel it. And so I've been working with this music video director for Shut Up and Airport, these last two videos and these upcoming videos that I'm releasing. And he just knows how to add such a cool, edgy flair. It's like unexpected and dark. And, you know, he's working a lot with like French Montana and, you know, artists that are just a little bit dissimilar to me, which is what I love about it, because it just brings out that dark, you know, rich kind of out of pocket sound that I want to have in visual. So it's been awesome. Yeah. That's where I'm at with the sound and visual.
So tell me more about the single Like You're in Mine. What was it like working on that track? And what was it like working on the music video for Like You're in Mine?
So that was really one of the first, when I say like I was been writing songs since I was 14, that was one of the really first songs that I wrote when I was 16 when I wrote it and recorded it. And I just thought it really represented kind of that early part of my music and that sound. And that's why I released it as my first song. I did release it years later, but I just wanted, you know, it to represent who I was back then, since I didn't really know how to release music. So that song is, I also directed it with a great friend of mine. You know, at the time you're just figuring out, you know, who you are and what your look is. And I filmed it in New York, just really walking around, because that was, you know, who I was and what I wanted to represent. So I'm walking on the FDR Drive, you know, I'm on the ferry. It was really fun. And I think that song is emotional. I'm singing about, you know, someone at the time that I was pretending to not like, but really did like. And that vulnerable sound, I like to have it in some of my newer stuff too, but it's really what I was doing when I was like 14, 15, 16, super dramatic, super emotional. But I love the old stuff, you know, it brings me back.
As an artist, you've evolved over time, because Like You're in Mine was such a different song compared to the next song that followed after. The next single you dropped would be Messy. And this song was a little bit edgier compared to Like You're in Mine. So tell me more about what it was like working on Messy and shooting the music video for this single?
I mean, like you're saying, like as the years went on and as I kept writing and getting more comfortable releasing music and being like, I don't care what people think, I just became more honest and sassy. And that's, who I am. So now it's like, now I'm like releasing the sass. But that song, I wrote that about a friend of mine, one of my roommates when I was in college. And her ex was friends with all of us, so she couldn't ever escape what he was doing. She couldn't get out of, knowing who he was with or like what he said about her. And I just was like, you know what, this is a fun song. And I just sat down at the piano. I wrote it in like an hour. It came so easily because I just was using examples. I just was saying what was happening, but pretending like I was her. And it's funny, we still laugh about it. He knows it's about it. She knows it's about it. And then the music video, like I was saying, it was really early on. And so I was figuring out, how do I make a music video? So that was directed by a friend of mine from college. So like I was saying, it just was like meeting people, and he was my age. His name's Billy Loveman. Shout out to him. Super talented. And those are my two real friends from college that were in musical theater. So I was like, actresses, like, let's go. And we filmed it in my friend's house. We put up all these garbage bags and we put up a smoke machine. And it was all done by my friends, which was really amazing. And I'm proud of that. So that was messy. It was messy.
Now, I got a chance to watch Shut Up. It looked like you were having a great time. You're hanging out with your girls. You're at the club having a good time. So tell me more about what inspired this track and what was it like shooting the music video for this single, Shut Up?
Yeah. So Shut Up was really amazing because it was the first song I wrote with the producer and, co-writer that I have done so much of my other stuff with. And now we're such great friends. We go on tour together. We walked into the studio. A friend of mine at the time was flirting with someone the day before, and we were thinking about song concepts. And, she was really nervous. She'd been talking about what she was going to say and everything. And so obviously I went over to eavesdrop when they were talking. And she was like sassing him. She was like, shut up. Like, oh, you're, like, I hate your shirt. She just was, it was obviously playful and it was flirting and they were totally into each other. But like the way she was flirting with him was kind of teasing him. And I was like, that's so funny because like, I don't really do it, but I see so many people, when you like someone, sometimes you're like giddy, you don't really know what to say except make fun in like a lighthearted way. And I wanted a song that was lighthearted, that was fun, that was sassy, that was, in your face. And so we found the chords. And I remember like once we started playing those guitar chords, we're like, oh, fuck, this like, oh, sorry. And we're like, this slaps. And then we just said shut up because that's what she'd said, and we thought it was a good hooky line, and the song came together in like 2 hours, the whole thing. It was crazy. We recorded it, finished one day. It was amazing. It's awesome.
So tell me more about the inspiration behind Airport. I believe it's about a long distance relationship. So what was it like working on Airport? What was it like shooting the video for this single?
So Airport was just always a really honest, like brutally honest, truthful song I had written on the piano in my bedroom at college. It was like really happening to me. I had a boyfriend that, lived somewhere else, and we kind of like my high school sweetheart. And we broke up after, trying to do long distance for a while. And I was about to go to the airport. I started playing the chords on the piano. I was like late. I had to get on the train. It was, very last minute. And I literally wrote the song when I was in the airport. I was sitting in the terminal. My flight was delayed. I had the chords, just replaying on my phone. And all these voice memos are me in an airport, in O'Hare Airport of Chicago. Like I used to go home just so I could see you. Just kind of what I felt. And it came together so fast. Like I listened to these voice memos from the day. It was like, there's like a few changes since then. I just like, I spilled the tea on how I felt. It was, and it's so funny, like we're back together now. And so it's like, we're always like laughing when I perform it. It's like, oh, please, I'm so dramatic. But it was true. I really was, just so upset. And it's like, you don't really know what you have till it's gone. And when I got home to where we had, been together, I was like, wait a second, like, I'm realizing what a breakup means, he's not here to pick me up at the airport. Like, it was just one of those like, oh, damn moments. And I really wrote it in the oh, damn.
Let's talk about the EP. You've got an EP dropping within the next few months. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Is there an exact release date, or is that still currently in the works?
It's currently in the works. It's definitely going to be late spring, summer this year. And I think what it really is more of is just like an editing process. Like, what do I want? Which selection of songs do I want to put together to say something? Because I really do have like a thick catalog now after all these years. And I'm really proud of a lot of it. And I think that there's just something to be said. I keep trying to make myself, I want to be this one sound. I want to, to represent something. But I think with releasing Airport, it's just shown me I don't want to be one thing. I want to have that sassy rhythmic edge and be dark. But I also really want to, have a good ballad in there that like breaks your heart and something that's really introspective. And I just want it to be across the board. And the artists that I really love do have that. Like even Britney Spears, who has like a toxic, sexy, crazy, fun, had her ballad and, that like broke your heart about what she went through. And I just don't want to be one thing. So it's going to be different. There's going to be, the sad songs to cry to. There's going to be the edgy, want to, go in, be a bad bitch songs. I love a good bad bitch song, but it's going to be across the board.
So Hayes, you recently hit the road with your latest music. You did headline Mercury Lounge in New York back in April. Tell me more about what that was like.
It is such an honor. I mean, like I said, I grew up in New York. I went to so many performances there. And so getting to go to a place where I used to like be an audience member, seeing even like Dua Lipa was saying in 2016, it's just crazy. It's like a huge checkmark moment for me, like bucket list moment. And so it was amazing. They had to evacuate Mercury Lounge because there was too many people over capacity. So it was just like emotional. It was crazy that like I had that support. And it was great to do it, where I grew up. So it was amazing.
So Hayes, for our listeners and viewers tuning in right now that want to stay up to date with everything going on in your career, where can they follow you online?
So I'm Hayes Warner on Instagram, HayesWarner. I'm Hayes Warner on TikTok. I am on Twitter. I'm huge TikTok, Instagram love. Like I'm on Facebook, Hayes Warner, but TikTok and Instagram, if you love that, I'm constantly on there. I'm like content, obsessed. So yeah, that's where I'm mostly.
Tell us more about what you've got coming up this year. For anybody interested in knowing more about what's going on, obviously they can follow you online, but tell us more about what you've got cooking later this year.
I am super, super excited. I'm going to be, performing at a bunch of different radio stations and just going around those areas. So I'm excited. All the information is going to be online. And then in October, I am going to be opening for Lewis Capaldi, which is huge. Doing a few dates with that. And that's also on my website or online, but I'm super excited for that. That's going to be crazy. And I love him. So.
Hayes, very cool to hear about what you've got going on. Again, Hayes, if you want to follow her online, she's on social media. Check out her website. And again, she's going to be going on tour. She'll be opening up for Lewis Capaldi this October. The EP is also dropping later this year. So definitely looking forward to that. Make sure you guys stay up to date. And Hayes, I mentioned earlier that this is the Grizzly Podcast. And again, what we do on the show is we take people such as yourself who are constantly grinding, constantly hustling, just doing your best to help motivate others while working towards your dreams and goals. So for our listeners and viewers tuning in right now, and anybody that's, wanting to pursue a goal, wanting to pursue a dream, if you could offer them any advice, what would you say to these people?
I've heard it so much and it's so cheesy, but don't take no. Like people are going to try and tell you that something you're passionate about is just a hobby. And if you're so dead focused on it and you don't listen to no and you block out the noise, you can make it a career. Like it just might take, some extra work or just being at the right place, right time. But like, That's a big one. And also my other big one is don't listen to judgment. Like it stopped me from releasing music for a long time. I was worried about being cringy. I was worried about promoting myself. And when I stopped blocking those out, I like aggressively blocked it out. And it just helped me, you know, be who I really am. And so that's a big one too.
Okay, wonderful advice there. Hayes, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I'm looking forward to everything you've got going on. Obviously, you've got the EP dropping later this year. You'll be touring as well. And you've got so much music on the way. So, Hayes, stay on your Grizzly.
Love it. Stay on your Grizzly.
Thank you so much for joining us. Take care.
Get it pop. Let's get it.
Yo, that's what I'm talking about.
Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to the Grizzly Podcast YouTube channel to access full episodes, video clips, and more on YouTube. The most authentic podcast is online at grizzlypodcast.com and on all major podcast platforms. Guest appearances and real conversations that will push you to hustle. The Grizzly Podcast is now streaming.
Hi, and welcome to Trademark Expediters. Whether you need a trademark or copyright, we can help make the process easy and affordable. Protect your company name, logo, or slogan with the trademark. Protect your songs, books, photographs, and other creative works with a copyright. Complete our easy online questionnaire in 15 minutes or less. Clear pricing, no hidden fees. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Get started today. Learn more at trademarkexpediters.com or call one of our friendly specialists at 1-800-510-1082. Affordable, easy, expedited service. Trademark Expediters.
We've shared success stories from people of all backgrounds and inspired others to pursue their dreams. Relive those moments and stream episodes of the Grizzly Podcast on our website, grizzlypodcast.com, and on all major podcast platforms.
Yo, turn it up.
Hard work, dedication, and progress. Stay on your Grizzly.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out another Grizzly Podcast episode. We'll see you next time.